troops into Eastern Europe and NATO countries in the near term. Now, the president didn't say how many, but did add it won't be a lot, as he put it. The U.S. does have up to 8,500 troops on alert and ready to go. It's a significant escalation tonight, and it comes as the Pentagon warned today that Russia has enough troops along Ukraine's border to launch a full-scale invasion of the entire country. America's top general says Russia has not mobilized troops on this scale and magnitude since the Cold War.
The Russian Federation has amassed upwards, at this time, of over 100,000 ground forces, air forces, naval forces, special forces. If that was unleashed on Ukraine, it would be significant, very significant. It would be horrific. It would be terrible. And it's not necessary, and we think a diplomatic outcome is the way to go here.
Well, today, Russia continued military exercises near Ukraine on land and at sea. Russian warships held target practice in the Black Sea. They fired at floating and flying targets to simulate shooting at other ships and aircraft. In a region near eastern Ukraine, Russian artillery squads practiced firing off rounds. Russia holds military exercises every year, but the Pentagon says this is very different, and the number of troops assembled far and away exceeds what they typically see. And this is important. Reuters reports Russia has moved blood supplies near Ukraine that could potentially be used to treat wounded soldiers. Ukrainian troops have not been sitting idle. British instructors have been teaching them how to use anti-tank missiles. The United States continues to ship weapons and lethal military into Ukraine. And another shipment arrived just today. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, is urging everybody there to remain calm and is trying to bring down the temperature. He says he told President Biden in their phone call yesterday that there should be no panic. Jeffrey Edmonds now, former director for Russia at the National Security Council. Jeffrey, thanks. American troops now set to move into Eastern Europe. That's new tonight, according to the president. Is this meant to deter? Is this a signal send, or what are we seeing here?
I think there are two aspects to the announcement. One is the fact that the U.S. government clearly thinks it's more likely than not that Russia's actually going to follow through with an invasion of Ukraine. And second is it's kind of a scary, indicator that they believe. I mean, Biden's been pretty clear that he doesn't want to fight Russia in Ukraine, but this likely means they assess there's a possibility that this conflict could broaden outside of Ukraine.
Oof. Well, if Russia invades, the Pentagon suggests it has plenty of resources to take the whole country. So how long would the U.S. have to respond?
So I think the response would depend on what you wanted to actually do. If the conflict stays in Ukraine, then I think what the president is doing is sufficient, and then we can get that there fairly quickly. I think the concern here is that I think one of the reasons he said that he was going to deploy something rather small is that you don't want to deploy so much that you actually end up triggering the thing you're trying to avoid, and that's expanding the conflict outside of Ukraine. If you deploy too much, you might actually incite the Russians into actually expanding the conflict.
Yeah, it's a fine line. How do Putin's actions now and specific troop placement differ from how he's threatened Ukraine in the past?
So I think what's important on that point, it's both what he has said. This has gone on for over a year. You have to look at both his political statements and the military deployments. The political statements started about a year ago. The troop deployments actually started 7 to 8 months ago. And so I think it's the amount of time they've been building up troops. They also haven't been as vocal about this deployment as they normally are. If they normally do an exercise or they're signaling, they're very vocal about the troop deployments. What we've seen in this deployment is some deception and moving troops in and out, but a slow, gradual increase.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop him right there. Yeah, man. Yeah, moves are being made. And the thing about the tactics and the art of war is they're not being deceptive. They're making moves outside of the media. You know, that's how moves are made. Before this media bullshit. But we all know all this stuff is pretty much pre-planned anyway. Of course, Biden doesn't want to go to war with Russia because those sanctions that Biden or America or NATO is trying to put on Russia has they can mitigate those sanctions because Russia is already moving away from the Western influence of their dollar and stuff. So all these moves that are being made is being counteracted. You cannot stop prophecy, man. You Edomites, NATO, EU, you are not going to stop prophecy. This is going to happen. World War III will happen, and it won't be fought. It can start in Ukraine, in between Russia and Western Europe, and right smack in the middle is Ukraine. It could start there, ground forces, but then it could also the prophecies, in Second Ezra 13. What is that, Joel, the 3rd chapter, I believe. If I'm wrong, it's going to be fought in the so-called Middle East. That's where the decision is made. That's the valley. Well, that's the Yahweh Shaphat, man. The judgment of Yahweh. That's going to be fought in the Middle East, man. So you can't get around this. Esau, the punk ass NATO and EU. This is prophecy, man. It was a long little video. I figured I'd just put a couple cents in there, a couple cents that I have. Yeah, this thing is heating up, man. All types of prophecies are happening. Oh, giving all praise to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Kakadash. Double lines be to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutation to the elders in Nakim of GMS and men that are like him, that is pushing his word with truth and sincerity. Shalom to the elect. Yeah, Shalakid. I wasn't really planning on speaking on this, just giving out the video. It's pretty self-explanatory. But like I said, prophecies are happening. Got a bunch of bug outs in Israel, of course, with the Sakari thing, which I won't speak on too much, because you let the teachers, the elders and Akim handle that. But yeah, things are turning up in 2022. I'm very excited. Hey, shalom.